everybody, welcome to Heroes Next Door. Today we are actually doing a podcast with 1075 Chatter and a very popular streaming service, so go ahead and check it out.
Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. We're here with Mike from Heroes Next Door. Mike, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
Glad you could make it. I know it's a little bit of a drive for you. You had to come out of where are you? In Pennsylvania, correct?
Yeah, I'm down near Philadelphia area, Chester County.
Okay.
So not too bad of a ride. It's about 2.5 hours to get up here. So
Okay, yeah.
I can do these easy.
It's little traffic.
Yeah, on Heroes Next Door we travel the country, so 2-hour travel, I'm good with that.
You driving everywhere? Or you guys
Yeah. We flew once. We flew out to Denver once, and did South Metro and stuff out there. But most of the time, yeah, I drive. I load up my crew and tow a trailer sometimes, and go wherever we need to go. And my last trip was 3,500 miles with a trailer behind me.
So Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself, your history, and how you started this whole Heroes Next Door.
Sure. I'm a paramedic firefighter by trade. And I always start with paramedic because that's my true love. That's what I do all the time. Firefighter, I came into a little bit later in my career, and I've been doing it since 1994. Absolutely love it. God's been giving me a real good career. I've had the opportunity to do critical care transport. I did pediatric transport, 911 service, both chase car and MICU. I flew with Sky Flight Care out of Brandywine Hospital as a flight medic for a number of years. I worked with the county SWAT team. I've done the task force. We went down to Katrina, Rita, Sandy, all those kind of things. So I've done some national stuff, and I've done some international medicine where we went to Mount Everest and did some medical missions. And, I've had a good career. So why things got started on Heroes Next Door and what's going on, when my oldest got married, she married someone that had no idea what the public service was about. And that's kind of where the idea started coming about, Heroes Next Door. Started out, he married into the family. During Christmas time, we talk about the stories and the calls. He's like, man, this is really cool. I had no idea this kind of stuff happens, that, people next door go to do these kind of things. I said, every firehouse that you travel to says volunteers wanted. And he's like, yeah, but I never thought I was qualified. I'm like, okay, there's a disconnect here. So something's happening. What's going on? When I started, we had 20, 30 guys at the firehouse that would show up consistently. You had to fight to get on the truck just to get a seat on the truck. Yep. And usually,
engine cal cover, wherever you could guys. I remember those days.
Yeah. And the issue has become over the years, and I thought, it was just Pennsylvania, but it's all over the nation.
Oh, no, it's nation.
Volunteerism and even recruitment and retention for the next generation is really, really down. And that's not just for EMS and fire, that's for police too. Public service in general has been down for recruitment and retention in regards to getting that next generation to fill. So we started talking and said, hey, what can we do about this? He was a YouTuber. In 2020, we got together. We decided to create Heroes Next Door as an LLC. We launched in March of 2020.
Okay.
And the idea is to raise awareness on the public platforms or the social media platforms that the new generation is using. The TikTok, the Instagram, the YouTubes, everything that we can possibly do to get the word out there to say, hey, here's what's going on in the world around you. Kind of break out of your little bubble a little bit and see what's going on and how you can give back to your community. So between his mind of YouTube and all the social media stuff and my background within the service, that was a great combination to launch.
It's a great story because we're suffering the same in Jersey. I've been a volunteer for 34th year as a volunteer firefighter. So just like you're saying, when I first joined, we were at the firehouse all the time.
Yeah.
It was always like 8 or 10 young guys. We hung out there. We hung out daily there. Whenever we were done working, or guys would just meet up there and hang out and go do stuff, come back there. And now it's like kind of like the guys show up at the firehouse. They, as soon as the call's over, guys disappear.
Yeah.
And I'm like, listen,
they got rid of all the shuffleboards and all those kind of.
We still got our shuffleboard. We refuse to get rid of it. It's the longest table ever. We still have our shuffleboard, but it's weird because, like you're saying, I don't know if it's just they're not interested. There's not a draw to it. They're unaware of it. I don't know, but it's obviously it's hurting us more in the Northeast because we rely heavily on volunteers up here.
Yeah.
You know, I talk to guys all over the country, and I know you do too. And some of these departments have been combinations or paid or partial paid or paid on calls for years because they're in these rural areas that don't have the population to sustain it.
Right.
We have heavy populations here, and we still can't sustain the volunteerism.
Yeah. I've actually been finding that even in the heavy populations, that society thinks it's already a paid service. So they don't even think to volunteer. And in the more populated, the rural, I find more volunteers than I do in the heavy population because they just assume I call 911, you come.
Yeah.
There's a firefighter. I see, Chicago Fire. I see all these fire shows on TV. That's the way it is. And if not, those are the rarities. Those are the bigger departments, the New York Fire, the Philly fires, and stuff like that. That's not us. That there's so much more of America that needs to be covered, and there's no way that we can do that by having a 100% paid services across the board.
It'll never happen. No,
It's financially not feasible.
no, it's not even it's unstable in some areas, right?
Yeah.
Your taxes will go through the roof. It's crazy what it would cost to fund all that, and to think about how much savings these municipalities have, or these fire districts or whatever they are,
Right.
by using volunteers, and you would think they would be doing more outreach.
Right.
As you know, mayors and councils and commissioners would be like, hey, listen, how do we attract more people? Maybe update our firehouses, make them a little bit more, but it's always about the bottom line dollar, right? Until all of a sudden somebody comes in and says, hey, listen, we're out of volunteers. This is what's going to cost you to run a paid department, and they're going to go,
Right.
oh, what happened?
Yeah.
What happened is, the age of the volunteers in my department, you know, we go out on a call. We're averaging in our 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
When I joined, the average age was about 35. I was one of the younger guys, a couple older guys, and the median was about 35.
Yeah.
That group of like 28 to 40, 42, it doesn't exist in our firehouse. Few and far between.
Yeah. And the question is why? What's going on? Is it something that we've done internally? Is it our management? Is it how we elected our chiefs? Is it the training? Is it that? Or is it simply society itself? Is it, the fact that, they are so busy and some of these people are working 2, 3 jobs to support their families? The economy's, really tough. Or are they not aware of what's going on? Do they not understand, the public service in general?
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that because we went on I'm in a volunteer firehouse, and we went on a call. It's been a couple of years now, but it was post COVID, and we go on a call, and we're close to New York City, so it was people that had moved from New York City. And I walk up to the door, and she goes, "Oh, my alarm's been going off for a while. It took you guys a while to get here." I said, "Well, we were home." And she goes, "Are you working from home because of COVID?" I go, "No, we're a volunteer fire department." She goes, "Oh, I had no idea."
Yeah. Yeah.
So they came out of New York City. They assumed, the fire alarm goes off, the firemen show up. They don't question how we got there or what happened. So I had to explain to her, and she's like, "You guys aren't paid?" And I said, "No, we're not paid." And she goes, "I hadn't." She really had no idea. She was kind of dumbfounded by it, like that it was even a thing to have volunteers.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's going more across the country now than it has in days past. Before, like we said, you have 20, 30 guys, your family's involved in volunteering. It was almost a community event back in the day. And now they just assuming, I had the same kind of scenario. We show up and they're like, why did it take you 8 minutes to get here? I'm like, 8 minutes? We rocked it. Like, they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, we had to go from our house, get our, blue light it to the station, pick up the truck, come to your place, and then get here. So 8 minutes, we rocked it. And they're like, oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, they think you're sitting in the firehouse waiting for the tones to
right,
drop.
right. But on the other side, they'll turn around and go, why the fire guys are sitting at the firehouse? I'm paying them to do something. They should be doing something. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, it's a no-win situation. I mean, it's becoming tougher and tougher though. For us, I know, there's days that we roll out 3 guys, and I could be the youngest guy on the apparatus, and I'm no spring chicken myself.
Right.
So,
right.
but it's I don't know what the answer is. I know our we get a lot of people come through the door, and you get a guy in his 30s coming through the door, and he's just got a young kid or something at home, just starting a family, and then you tell them that they got to go to this academy for almost 7 months, 2 nights a week, a couple Saturdays a month, and they're like, well,
right,
I don't have that kind of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that's an issue too. I mean, there's got to be a better way to attack it, to break it down. I mean, even some kind of e-learning for some of it.
Yeah.
I mean, does it all have to be
Yeah.
in front of an instructor in a
And
classroom?
most firehouses have drill nights. Like, can't we, continue to go back to the old days where that was your training? You showed up for drill night, and they took you through hoses, they took you through ladders, those kind of things. Instead of having that, I don't want to say that education of fire one, fire two is bad. I know what it's important information, but is there a way to kind of break that down into smaller sections that people can absorb a little bit better? Because it is a volunteer. If you're going to a paid service and you need to go to academies, great. Fire one, fire two, right
You're
off the
paid to
bat.
be there.
You're paid to be there. That's a good thing. So the question becomes, how do you balance that? Because you're trying to make the people safe. With all the lawsuits that are out there, like, oh, you gave me cancer because I didn't know about these carcinogens, or you did this, you did that. I think we got so afraid of saying, hey, we're still going to educate our own people to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, some online learning too would make it, because if you could work at your own pace. Hey, listen, I got 3 hours Sunday morning. I can go do modules 1, 2, and 3 and bang those out, and then maybe check in. Have a check in with an instructor once a week, once every 2 weeks. I mean, the doctors are doing it.
Yeah.
We, medical professionals are doing it, but we can't do it in the fire service.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think part of it comes down to, I think the instructors are a little bit, they don't want to lose their jobs. They don't want to cut back on instructors, so they're fighting it a little bit.
Right.
And I understand the whole concept, but I agree with you. There's got to be a better way. Even if it's smaller modules. Hey, start with making the guy an exterior firefighter.
Yeah.
Get through these classes. You're exterior only. Then finish these classes. Then you're interior. Like, get your qualifications. And I think the other thing too is when you tell a guy, hey, listen, here you are, welcome aboard. You're a probie. You're going to help us clean the firehouse. You can ride on the trucks, but you really can't do anything else. Guys are like, do I really want to do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's another thing that turns people off. But I remember when I joined, it was you didn't ask what you had to do. You just saw what everybody else was doing, and you're like, okay, so I guess I got to clean the kitchen because that's what all the new guys seem to be doing.
Right. Right.
And now we got guys that come in and they're like, they sit in the reclining chair, and right away they grab their phone, and I'm like, you've been here 3 months, like you got to help out in the kitchen first.
Right. Right.
And listen, we all take our turn helping out, even the older guys. But as a younger guy, you got to step it up and show you want to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I think society has kind of changed that too. I see other podcasts and YouTube channels out there that are promoting do the bare minimum. I'm a volunteer, or I work for you. I'm going to do the bare minimum. I work 9 to 5. I'm just a number to you. And I don't know when that changed over society. That when you go to work for a company, they invite you in. They want you to do well. They want you to improve. They don't want you to just do the bare minimum for the little amount of money that you get. You have to kind of contribute to the overall goal or mission of that fire company. And if you're doing the bare minimums, it's no wonder no one wants to do anything more.
well, and if everybody does the bare minimum, then the job doesn't get done, right?
Right.
Because I mean, I know I was chief a long time ago, and I know our chief now is a second. He's coming through for his second time, and the amount of hours you have to put in to be a chief of the department now is absolutely insane. Like the amount of time he spends with the politicians and dealing with the town and meetings with them and meetings with the police department, EMS, and all the other stuff that they when they have an event going on, and he doesn't get anything. There's no stipend.
Right.
He gets a car.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll leave the car at the firehouse, and I don't have the time for it because I'm running a business. But and God bless the fact that he can do it. But there's a lot of departments that guys have been chief for 15, 16 years, and they love doing it. And I'm glad that they can do it because I enjoyed it when I was chief.
Yeah.
I just don't have the time to go back and do anything like that. I really can't commit that kind of time. I got my kids are getting older now, so it's become easier for me to free up my time. They drive on their own because they're both driving. One's a senior in high school, one's a senior in college. So
right.
I'm in a different spot now, but it's still, the demands of work and stuff like that, and trying to like go to meetings during the day. I don't have that kind of free time.
Right. Let me ask you this question though. Do you think some of it is also the culture of what we built over the years, that good old boys club, where we tend to not include the new generation? Do you think any of that has to play a small part in why we're at where we're at today?
It may, and we've tried like outreach through different programs that we do at our firehouse, and we try and get the younger guys to go out and do the outreach because nobody wants to hear from me. Like they want to hear from a younger guy, right? Like, hey, listen, come on, join the fire department. This is what we're doing. This is, you know, if I go there and talk, or you go there and talk, it's like, okay, some old dude came and talked to me about being a fireman. It sounds good, but what does he know? And so we've tried to engage our younger guys to kind of, hey, listen, bring two friends to the firehouse. But even like we used to have events, and like you were talking about, we used to have events at our firehouse. We used to have a clam bake for all our members this summer, and it was a huge family event. Now we stopped doing it because it just dwindled down to nothing. And at the end, we were getting guys to show up. The younger guys would show up, they'd eat the food, they'd help clean up, and then they'd be gone. Where we would hang out the whole day, set up, clean up. It was kind of like part of the culture. It was like, hey, listen, we started making the chowder the night before. You hung out all night. You had everybody had a job to do, and we did it overnight. We all slept a couple hours. We got up the next morning, and it was just a part of the culture, and you wanted to do it. You were like excited about, hey, listen, we can't wait for the clam bake to come up. We lost that event, and you could be right. It could just be that there's a disconnect between the older generation and the newer generation, and we're not connecting with them. I don't know.
Right, right. Well, and that's one of the things that I'm trying to address on our channel. Now, I don't know if you've seen much of the channel.
Get it a little bit.
YouTube is a unique beast in itself. You have to have what we call different buckets. Our major bucket that we view are the station cribs and station rigs. Everybody loves those. But we're also trying to portray, the other struggles that are going on, the other, stories behind the stories. We more started to do a day in the life kind of series, those kind of things. And the one thing that I'm trying to do is say, hey, this is what we are doing, and this is where we're trying to go, and we need you involved in that. And how can we get you involved? How can we get the social medias, the YouTube, the TikToks, and stuff like that? And believe it or not, I still have run across some chiefs, and I'm using chiefs in a broad term, that are afraid of social media. They're like, oh, you can't, here's an 18-page policy that says what you can post, what you can't post, and how that. I got where they came from, but we need to figure this out because that's where the younger generation is living. They're you sit down in a restaurant, they're all on their phones. And to be honest with you, I've lately been on my phone because that's my new job. Trying to understand what this generation is coming behind me are and how they operate, how do they think, and hopefully by creating a channel like Heroes Next Door, that we can open awareness to those next generations. Fortunately, we've had some success. We've had some people call me up or email me and say, hey, because of you, I'm now volunteering. I had no idea I could even do that. They always thought they needed the education before they got there. So a lot of my videos, I ask the same questions over and over because I don't know what video they've seen, right?
Yeah,
they could only see the first one ever.
Or a piece of one, right?
A piece of one. So I'll ask the same thing. Hi, how do they get a hold of you? Do they need the education? I already know the answer to those questions, but I have to ask those because that one person watching that video may not know that. And that's one thing that I continue to try to do and promote what we're doing here.
Yeah, so you try to make that connection for them. Hey, listen, just reach out to your local fire department, right? And they'll point you in the right direction.
Right. Because honestly, the other things that we forget about are all the other behind the scenes volunteers that we need, the administrative staff, the people that can help write grants, the people that can do electrician and drywall. And when you need work on the firehouse, those are the guys that we also need. If you don't want to fight a fire, I get that. Some people don't want to go into a fire. That's fine, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be part of the community of a firehouse.
Oh yeah, and there's, like you said, there's a million jobs to be done.
Yeah. Even
if it's running the fundraiser, running a social event of some sort.
Right.
Do something.
Yeah. Or education. Even if you don't go into the building, bring in education, how to do CPR,
Yep.
how to do awareness or whatever. I think if we continue to move forward and doing things like this, the podcast that people are listening to, doing the videos on whatever platform there is, and there's always a new one coming up.
There'll be another one next week, and another one after that.
Whatever those social platforms are, we as senior leadership need to understand this is what we need to do. These are the things that we're going to have to bring to the table, and I've come across some stations that have been successful with that. They brought in the things that are attracting the younger generation, making sure you have good Wi-Fi, making sure you have the ability to bring in and plug in your computers, all the electric stuff, and allowing them to do those kind of things.
Give them a little workstation, so if they're going to college or going to school, they
Right.
can, instead of going to the library, they can go there and hang out.
Right.
And then
Right.
if the pager goes off, they can go on a call and come back and finish their work.
And there's actually another station most recently in East Brandywine that created an entire work area for those that work from home nowadays. After
That's great.
after COVID, people are like, "Oh, I can work from home," and they bring in their computer. Like, okay, well, I have a space for you. Basically, I give you an office space. You come here,
Yeah.
do your work. But if there's a call comes out, stop your work for a minute and go help, and then go back to your work. It was awesome. It's a great idea to bring those people that
I never even thought of that.
working
That's
from home
great.
are now working from the office, but they're doing it. They're doing a dual role. It's awesome.
They're working remotely from the firehouse.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're setting them up with like a nice little office they can work in, so they don't have to work from their kitchen.
Right, right.
And so it's a win-win, right?
Right.
And for the business, for the company they work for, it's a win-win too.
Right.
Because now they have a spot to work in. They're not using space at the office. Okay, so you lose them for a little bit here and there, but it also proves that they've proven that people that work from home work longer hours,
Yeah.
right? So they're getting the most out of them anyhow. So
Exactly. Yeah. So, as people are redesigning their firehouses or building new firehouses, those are the kind of things that you really need to think about and what we need to incorporate in those firehouses.
it's a good point. It really is, because I would have never thought of like a work area. Like, I've thought of like pods for studying, but I never said, oh, somebody working from home could possibly do that too. It just never occurred to me.
Right.
So that's neat that you get, and you, like you said, you get to go out there and see stuff, and you're like, wow, I never even thought of that.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And fortunately, our goal for Heroes Next Door is to hit all 50 states. We wanted to hit as many firehouse, police, and EMS stations as we can. I think we are at 13 states so far, so we got a lot more to go, and we're going to continue that.
Takes time though.
It does take time, and it takes money.
It takes time, it takes money, and it's mostly your time, and you're
Yeah.
trying to volunteer.
Yep.
You have a work-life balance that you have to maintain, right?
Yeah.
So
And the dollar. I mean, gas isn't cheap. So me traveling, I pay for my film guys. These guys buying the cameras. I pay for my audio. I pay for the editors and all that kind of stuff, because I didn't learn all that stuff. I had no idea how to edit or film or any of that kind of stuff. I went to school. I got my master's in organizational leadership. My goal was to become that chief. But that's a small niche in some little rural, community. By using the social media platforms, we can increase that and say, hey, we can educate much more people by using social media platforms. So, like I said, my goal is to hit all 50 states, as many as we can, and to raise awareness for those different areas. And I'm surprised at how many times we go to these smaller stations. It's 2 bays. I went to one in Ada, Ohio. It was like 3 bays, and they're like, oh, come do a station cribs with me. Loved it. Guys were awesome. But I get there, and it basically was an open community room, a kitchen, and a storage area. I'm like, how do I create a whole episode out of this? But we made it work because these guys are important for that community, and to talk about those different kind of things and show, hey, I don't need the 30,000 square foot fire department, like the one I did out of Adams County, Colorado. Great department, great way to do that. But they're a paid department. I also want to hit those one stall garages, like I did in Lebanon, PA. That those are another fire.
and they have a lot of those have a lot of history to them too.
Oh, yeah.
When you talk to those guys,
Yeah.
especially the older ones, even if they're single bay garages, a lot of times, oh, this is where we had the hay for the horses.
Yeah.
I was like,
That's exactly what it was.
it's pretty cool. So
Yeah, we had to reinforce the entire floor because the horses, trampled through it, and now we got a truck.
Yep, it's pretty interesting. It's funny you say Ada, because my son is going to college out that way.
Okay.
So I know exactly the area you're talking about, and it's a lot of prefab metal building type firehouses. But they make them work, and they use them.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't have to be fancy. It just has to be functional.
Yep. Yeah. But they were actually talking about, hey, how do we get the younger generation back? And that's the first thing they said. Their chief, we want to get Heroes Next Door here, so at least we get some public awareness, and then we want to start maybe changing our supply room into a crew room. This station didn't even have a crew room. And like we grew up in crew rooms. Like that's where we played our shuffleboard and watched TV and did, the Super Bowls and stuff like that, and brought the family down for Christmas dinners, and then that's how it was. But these stations, they don't have any of that. They're like, it's a garage. Come here for the fire call and go home. I'm like, missing a little bit here, just a little bit.
Yeah, the firehouse table is an important piece of the firehouse, right?
Right.
The kitchen table or the eating table,
Yeah.
whatever it is. But
that's where most problems get solved, by the way. Getting around the kitchen table, whether it's at your house or the firehouse. That's where most problems get solved.
Yeah, unless I watch a comedian and she talks about every time her husband comes back from the firehouse table after he's a paid guy.
Yeah.
And she talks about, I think my husband comes back dumber from the firehouse every time. And she talks about the round tables they have at the kitchen and the discussions they have because he brings them home. And she's like, I can't believe they talk about this stuff. But it's interesting. And it's funny you mention that because we have a beautiful table at our firehouse now. And guys are sitting there on their phones.
Yeah.
It's different. We used to have conversations. Now it's, guys are into their phones more than they're into conversations. So.
Right.
But like you said, it's a different generation, right?
Different generation, but also I think we've kind of let it lax. I was actually just watching Chicago Fire, believe it or not. I understand what it is; it's entertainment. But the one new chief that came in was like, "Hey, put your phones in this bin when you get to the firehouse, and we're going to talk to each other. We're going to get rid of the phones." Maybe that's something that we need to think about. I thought, you know what? It's actually probably not a bad idea. When you get to the firehouse, just put your phone in the bin. It's there if it needs it. People know where you're at. If an emergency comes out, most likely you're going to get called to it anyways. But put it in the bin and hang out with each other and talk face to face like we're doing here today.
Yeah, and I think that's lost on a lot of younger people, and I think that may be an issue too. Is they just don't want to go to a firehouse and have to interact with people because a lot of people just aren't comfortable doing that because they've grown up on the phone, right?
Right.
So it's a little bit of a different mindset, and maybe we run drills every Monday night. Maybe instead of running 4 drills a month on a Monday night, we have an open house and invite the public in.
Yeah.
And maybe one of those nights you pull one person in.
Yep.
That's one more person you got in your ranks that hopefully, will be a chief someday or something like that. I mean, the options are limitless, but it's just a matter of, how much time you can put in and how much effort you can put in. Like you're saying, you want to hit all 50 states, and I'm sure you are.
Yep.
I'm sure your outreach is reaching all 50 states already.
Yeah, and beyond. I mean, I've gotten invites to UK, Australia, Germany, Costa Rica.
How you driving to those?
Yeah. We'll work on it. But
you can put the lifted F-150 on a boat and take it up there.
Over. Yeah. So as we continue to grow,
bring it back down a little bit. Did it pop up?
You're just slouching. Yeah, there you go.
Slouching. I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. Got to keep it going. But as we continue to grow, I hope to get to those different countries and see the difference. One of the biggest things is over here in America, and we're talking about trucks and stuff like that. We have massive fire trucks. We have massive amounts of equipment compared to the UK. They're like, we can do the same thing with a much smaller truck. Why is that? What's the difference? Do we need to go big? Can we go smaller? Now, I understand that our mission profile is different. Our geography is different on what we have to accomplish. And that plays a factor in it. But, let's try to get out of our own little sandboxes and see what everybody else is doing to make it more efficient across the board.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the European, and you mentioned a European fire helmet to the guys around here, and they're like, no way would I wear that helmet. It looks like a fighter pilot helmet, and it's like, well, maybe there's a reason they're wearing it, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
like why? I understand traditional fire helmets. I get it. We love our tradition. Firehouse is built on tradition, especially here in America. We're very proud of that tradition. But there has to come a point to like, well, what was the benefit of them going to that helmet? Or what's the benefit of our helmet? Maybe they need to switch to our helmet kind of thing.
Yep.
We don't always have to switch to theirs, but if we don't share that information, they may have come across something and say, hey, this really works well because it maybe sheds the water off your coat a little bit better. You don't have to dry it off as much, or the shield is a little bit better than what it is. Or we can say, no, ours are much better because of X, Y, Z.
Yep.
But if we don't share that information, no one's going to know. No one's going to get better. Maybe there's a hybrid out there that no one's thought about yet. And that's the next generation to
could be.
take two of those and say, hey, I've just built a brand new helmet that's the traditional American looking helmet with the benefits of a European helmet. I don't know.
Could be down the road. Never know, right?
Right, right.
It's funny you mention apparatus and things like that because I watched a video. They did a side by side American firefighters fighting a car fire. I don't know if you've seen this one. They did the American fighting a car fire, and then they do a European.
I think I have, yeah.
And they literally pull up and they direct the bumper nozzle
Yeah.
right at the car, and they show the guys they're still trying to pull hose and get their masks on, and meanwhile these guys by the time they get out of the truck, the fire's out.
Yeah.
Because they're grabbing tools and then they're going to do overhaul because they have the little bumper nozzle, and I'm like,
right, right.
Yeah, maybe that does work.
I think that one was paired with one where it was a dual reaction kind of video, and it was a sewage truck that pulled up to a car fire, and he just opened up and poured the sewage on the car fire, put it out before the fire truck got there.
I saw that one,
and it was paired with that same video that you were talking about.
I mean, so there is other technology out there that maybe hey, maybe the bumper line is maybe the bumper nozzle is a good thing.
Right.
I know they use it a lot in wildland firefighting.
Yeah. Yeah.
With these EVs and stuff, you don't want to get close to them. Maybe you just water in that way.
Right. Hit it from 2 different angles or 3 different angles. And
Yeah.
nowadays, even the piercing nozzles that you can just tap through the hood from a distance, you're good to go.
But we'll get, people don't like that because they like the hands-on, pulling hose, stretching lines. I understand.
Yeah.
I'm that way too. But when you're limited manpower during the day, it's great to be able to have that option because then, it's 2 less guys you need on a hose line that can start doing something else.
Right.
Or
Right.
pull that secondary line and at least, start fighting it. But
Yeah. Well, the one thing saying that's out there is first thing that we need to do is change. Second thing to do, or they hate change, but they hate the way it is. So there's got to be some kind of a break in there and figure out, how can we do this better? How can we continue to improve and bring back that generation of volunteerism? Bring back that generation of recruitment and retention. And I do a lot for fire departments, but even the police department, trying to get a police officer, the academies is next to impossible because the way they've been portrayed over the years, people are like, oh, all police officers are bad people. And it's just not true. And if we don't have those kind of people that help with these public service, society's going to really, really struggle. I'm a paramedic by trade. We struggle right now to fill the trucks. There's times where we're going to have to put a truck down. So you have to wait an extra 10, 15, 20 minutes before you even get a truck available because we don't have the personnel to cover all the 911 calls.
Well, the other problem you have, especially in the medical side, is you're getting burnout.
Oh yeah,
you're getting burnout. You're getting suicide too, which is a huge issue. More so on the medical side than on the fire.
Yeah,
it affects mostly medical, then police, then fire, unless they've been involved. Unless fire's been involved in a traumatic event usually.
Yeah.
But I know medical. You guys are seeing a huge increase in the suicide rates.
Yeah, the mental health is definitely a challenge. But my strong belief is that also comes back down to some of the leadership that we have out there, and the lack of education of how to understand what's going on, and to make us aware as leadership that these problems are here. Before like, oh, suck it up. That's just part of the job. Go home, have a beer and come back tomorrow. You'll be fine. Well, that's no longer the case. We really need to figure out, hey, seeing this dead child, this mass casualty incident, something like that really affects people in different ways. And just because me as a 30-year veteran have seen it and I'm able to deal with it doesn't mean this guy does. And, we have to pay attention to our brothers and sisters. We have to make sure that they're not going home and, going into alcohol or drugs or anything else. Give them another outlet. And my personal opinion, the best outlet is the firehouse itself.
Yeah.
You get out and, exercise and do those different things will help with that mental health. But I think it really becomes down to leadership and paying attention to the people around. But we're so busy because we're so strapped that we kind of lose track of it a little bit, in my opinion.
And you're not watching people, so they leave and you don't know what's going on
Right.
with them. So
Right.
when guys are hanging out at the firehouse, you're like, something's wrong with him.
Yeah, he's sitting in the corner.
Yeah.
He's not talking.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he's on his phone. Like, why is he on his phone all the time?
Yeah,
He's not hanging out with us.
Yeah, you can kind of pick up on it a little differently when you don't see guys. It's
Right.
you don't know what they're suffering through, and
Right.
especially with the trauma over the years of constantly seeing seeing the bad, right? That's
Yeah.
what weighs on a lot of people.
Yeah. One thing that I've kind of tried to do in my practice is after every call, whether it's a bad call or a good call, I do a debriefing, a hot wash, I call it. What did we do well? What did we do bad? And what can we do better in the future? And I try to get a good sense of my crew that helped me out there of what happened during this call. And, I'm 30 years into it and I'm still learning stuff. Oh, I could have done better this. Or I could have communicated this better. I could have said my please and thank yous a little bit better, or hey, we probably should have intubated that this time rather than this time. You're right. Those critical um, critiques are important. And I don't take offense to it if someone says, hey, did you ever think of this? But I think society, too, in general, as soon as you start critiquing them, they get offended. And I'm like, I'm not offending you. I'm just trying to make sure, first of all, are you okay? And what can we do better together to make this more successful?
And I think that's in any of the services, whatever event it might be, police event, fire event. We have a house fire. We critique it afterwards. And listen, guys don't want to hear the negative of it, but they have to hear it because that's the only way you're going to change things.
Right.
Right. Hey, maybe maybe you, as the officer, first officer on the engine, you could have done this. I didn't even think about it.
Right.
But instead, guys are right away. I don't want to
Right.
So there is a whole culture about critiquing. So
Yeah. And I think critiques, if anybody's listening to this, critiques in the public safety are important. You have to have those critical critiques and take that and learn from that. And that's where you're going to make yourself better as you continue on. And that's going to help your mental health.
Oh, absolutely, because then you understand what other people's perspective is and what other people might be going through as well.
Right.
It does help to go back through these calls and just kind of go over things.
Right.
We do our debriefs now though. When we have like a fire alarm or something not so serious, we go to the local Dunkin' Donuts as a crew, and that's how we debrief, which helps because then the guys get to sit there for 15, 20 minutes, have a coffee.
Yeah.
BS a little bit, kind of have a little bit of downtime.
Let that adrenaline kind of wear off.
And then we get back to the station.
Right. Because when you got that adrenaline, everything's good. You're like, this was great. This was the most awesome call ever. Then you get home and you're like, I probably shouldn't have cut that roof that early. I probably should have waited till, they ventilated here before I actually put water on it because I kind of steamed that guy. And only when you get home, you're like, crap. I probably could have done better.
Yeah, when you sit down and you decompress it all in your house, you're like, wait a minute. Did that really happen that way, or is it that way? Yeah, well, you're right. When the adrenaline's flowing, it's a whole different ball game.
Right.
So what's the goals? What are the goals? I know the outreach, getting to all 50 states.
Yeah. The goal for us is to continue to, hit those social media platforms. I most recently hired a company to help me with my Facebook because each platform has its own unique problems and its own unique algorithms and stuff like that. I'm working on the YouTube side of it. I got another company working on the Facebook side of it, the TikTok, the Instagram, those kind of things. It's always hard to get you got to go vertical, you do horizontal filming and all those different kind of nuances. I'm trying to improve my product every time I go. If anybody's out there and they've watched Mr. Beast, any of his stuff on YouTube, he's the king of YouTube in my opinion. He said early on in his career, every time you do something, you're going to improve. You got to improve. You think you did it great, then you look back 2 years from now, you're like, man, that one really sucked. But at the time, you thought it was awesome. Always trying to improve. That's what we're doing at Heroes Next Door. We're always trying to try new things. But with that comes with people that don't watch as much. Like, oh, I really want to watch a Station Cribs. I really want to do a Station Rigs. But now you're talking about, the drone program and the band that's coming on. Well, I've done a 4-part series on drones because that's going to be a huge factor coming across in America if we don't do something about it. And I thought it was very important to take the time and take those weekends to talk about the different programs that are out there and potentially what's going to happen. So that's the one thing. I have right now almost 300 different stations throughout the country that have asked me to come. I don't do cold calls anymore. So if anybody's out there listening and you want Heroes Next Door to come, please send us an invite. We don't cold call. You say, oh, go to, Hackensack, New Jersey. Well, that's great. I would love to, but they need to invite me. Because our volume is so big.
Yep.
And it cuts a lot of the red tape. When I cold call somebody, they're like, "Well, what are you? What are you getting out of it?" I'm like, "Nothing. I don't charge you for any of this stuff. All I get out of it are the views that will pay for my crew." So we want to get to all 300 places that we have on the list, but we also want to continue to move forward. And the only way for us to do that is to continue to get views and to get some kind of sponsorships to raise that finance. The one thing that I built into our mission statement when we created Heroes Next Door is I'm not going to charge a firehouse, EMS, or police station to go view their station. They're already struggling, especially those one bay, two bay places. They don't have the budget to pay film crew to come out.
Yeah,
You know,
they can't spend that kind of money.
they can't spend that kind of money on a social media platform, which may or may not go big or go viral. You know, I've seen a lot of people trying to do their own stuff, but they get, 200, 300 views. Using Heroes Next Door by inviting, I'm not going to charge you to do that. But the only way I can do that is if I can get some sponsorships from fire helmets, from air packs, from something like that. That's what I'm currently trying to build. To help me get to those next stations. That's where that all comes down to.
Now, will there ever be an expansion where it's you and a couple crews out there?
Oh, I would love to.
Because
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it would definitely make it a lot easier to hit all 50 states if you had guys in different parts of the country
Yeah.
hitting different departments.
Yeah, I would love to kind of expand and do that more too. I don't have to be the guy in front of the camera, 100%, but I want to get that information out there. So if people are out there and they're listening, they're like, "Hey, I can film one and send it to Heroes Next Door." Great, let's do that. I would take that film from you. I would edit it down to what our platform is and throw it up and give you your 15 minutes of fame on a platform that's probably bigger than your station platform.
Yeah, correct. I mean, yeah. So if people are listening or watching,
Yeah.
make sure you get your videos over to them, and maybe you'll find a new videographer.
Yeah, yeah.
You never know.
So I got a real good crew. I got a young guy that usually travels with me. He's a wedding photographer. Do more photography. Do more digital is his stuff. He does weddings during the summertime, so I kind of take a little break, and then we pick up, the rest of the time. My wife, I've recruited to do some filming. I've had a couple other people come and help me filming. So I'm always looking for more stuff to continue to expand. But the ultimate goal is to continue to raise awareness for fire, police, and EMS stations across the nation on what we are, what we're doing, and how it all exists.
That's great. I mean, it's a necessary thing, and I think it's a great platform you're working on and trying to move the public safety image forward. Um, it's been a rough go of the last, especially I think it's been post COVID. It's been we've seen the biggest decline in just volunteerism and membership, and I don't know if it's the economy, the post COVID. I don't know what kind of kicked it all off, but I know around here, my local department, that's kind of when we saw it drop off. I don't know if out where you are, if it's the same or it was before or after that, but
It was leading into that for sure. But yeah, definitely post COVID when people are like, "Well, this is too much of a risk. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to put my family at risk. I don't want to put me at risk." That's where it come down. For those that are concerned about that kind of stuff, we have mediations for those risks. We have ways to handle those risks. So I encourage you, if that was one of the things that were holding you back on not volunteering because you're afraid of that risk, the fire departments, EMS, and police departments have come up with programs to help mediate those kind of risks. That shouldn't hold you back any longer. When it first came out, 100%, no one knew what was going on. Government was back and forth. They didn't know what
things
was
were shut down.
They didn't know what was going on. I understood why people kind of took a step back and said, "Whoa, this is bigger than me. I don't know what's going on." Since then, we've solved a lot of those issues. They're not as big as as regular media would tell you. We do have ways to mediate a lot of those issues and risks.
Yeah, and it's funny because we never stopped responding.
No.
It changed the way we respond a little bit, especially in the fire service. I mean,
Right.
But we never really stopped responding. We couldn't.
We can't.
You can't.
Yeah.
You got to keep going, right? So.
Yeah.
So I mean, we changed down our SOGs. We had less guys on on each piece of apparatus. So if somebody did get sick, it wasn't going to affect everybody. We wouldn't lose the whole department at once because back then it was 14 days of quarantine.
Yeah.
And, lock yourself away and
You lose people. Yeah. You're like 14 days. I'm like,
Yeah.
I was just exposed. I don't even have it. You're going to put me in a room for 14 days? So, yeah, during that time, 100% understand. Everybody was, really confused on what it was, how serious it was going to be, that kind of stuff. And I'm not downplaying COVID in any
No.
way in the event. But now that we understand it, we know what's going on. We know how to decon stuff. We know how to, washing our hands is a very important thing. Those kind of things we can take care of.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we did see a decline. Like we saw a bunch of our older members who had some medical conditions. They kind of drifted away for a little bit. I'm like, hey, listen, which is understandable,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
You're older, you got a medical condition, some sort. Most of them have come back.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it's been an interesting couple of years. So let me ask you. I don't know if you're going to answer these questions or not, but favorite apparatus. What department was it?
I think my favorite apparatus of the ones I've reviewed or the ones I've worked on.
Whichever.
Okay.
Whichever.
Ooh, that's a tough one because there's so many that are out there, and they love showing the heavy rescues. That's one of their pride and joy of lots of different things. Princeton Heavy Rescue. Jeremy from National Fire Radio just dropped a video on it. I did a station. It's a great rescue. The fact that it's EMS related and not in a fire department, it's a little unusual.
Yep.
I went out to East Grand Rapids and did a complete station cribs and station rigs. I think it's just station cribs on that one. They're a combination fire department and police department. They're both, and it was interesting to see how that worked. That was pretty cool.
There's one of those in Florida that I know of.
Yeah.
And it's all three.
Yeah.
They do fire, EMS, and police work, and
East Grand Rapids did the same thing.
It's a pretty cool concept. I mean, I guess if you're not that busy, you don't have a lot of fire calls, you don't have a lot of police calls, you're okay.
Right.
What happens when the storm rips through?
Well, you got everybody there. It's covered both ways.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, you got a full crew all the time because you got it both paid. So that was kind of interesting. But as far as apparatus, I think I definitely like the rescues that are out there. There was a very unique truck up in Leland Township, Michigan. It was a hydrant truck. Basically, it was a pump on the back of a pickup truck because they have a lot of waterways. Michigan's all water. You can't travel a mile in a straight line without hitting water, so they draft a lot. It's a drafting truck. But, they didn't have to put an engine out of service to draft. They're like, oh, my engine, you're right, your engine does that. I'm not saying it doesn't. But why take that apparatus that has all the other tools and put it at a water source and now it's stuck there, right?
And it could be pretty far away too.
Correct, right? Correct. So they designed this F550 or 350 or whatever it was, and basically put the pump that's normally in the engine on the back of this pickup truck, and they draft all the time.
Yes, they don't need a tank or anything.
They don't need a tank or nothing. Yeah, and they hook it up. So that was pretty cool. Just seeing the different designs.
Different neat stuff out there, right?
Right. And then South Metro, they had a brand new airport truck.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Those
things are just.
Yeah, they look cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. The way the cab is designed, the nozzles they have on them, how they approach the fire. That those are all kind of cool stuff.
Did you get to drive one of those?
I did not. I rode in it, but I haven't.
I would love to drive one. They're just massive.
They're massive, and they're center drives.
Yeah, center drives.
So I was talking to him during the interview process, and he goes, "It takes a little bit because we naturally want to go against that yellow line or that double yellow line because that's where we line up. Well, if you do that there, you're hanging off on the other side." He's like, "We really got to pay attention that we're in the center of the truck and how to drive those kind of trucks."
It's pretty. I would never even thought about that, but yeah, because I've seen them where all of a sudden two guys hop out and the guy's still sitting in the middle, and I'm like, oh, it's a center drive.
Yeah.
So. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I've seen a lot across the nation. I love all of them. I'm always a little kid.
Yeah.
Like, this is pretty cool.
And you always find something neat, right? Something you didn't think of at different scale. I didn't know they did that, or
correct. Correct.
They always have. I know Jeremy. I know Jeremy too, and he's always got like he'll find at a firehouse like something that they do that's odd that nobody ever thought of.
Right.
That makes complete sense, and you're like, why did we think of that?
Yeah, like putting a little step in this location. You're like, why did we jump on the board all the time? Like, that would have been perfect. Those different kind of things. So I'm always learning. Every time I go out, I learn something new. And seeing how each mission profile for every department is also a little bit different.
Oh, yeah.
The one that I talked about, Ada, Ohio, every truck has 2,500 gallons of water on it. And they don't call them tankers. They call them engines because That's what they wanted to do. So.
Are they tankers or are they tenders?
Well, it's another thing.
I had that conversation, and we had that conversation. We have a tank. Well, technically it's a tender, but we have a tanker at our firehouse. So,
Right.
So, when I grew up at the firehouse. It was called a tanker, and people are like, oh, it's supposed to be a tender.
Right.
Tankers fly in the air, and I'm like, been a tanker for ever since I've known it.
Right. I didn't realize that until I hit the Midwest. I grew up in Michigan, but I wasn't involved back then. But as soon as you hit the Midwest, terminology changes.
Yep.
So, whether it's a tanker, brush truck,
Quick
attack,
mini pumper.
Yeah.
Yeah, just depends on where you are in the
They're
country,
all the same
right?
thing. It's just a different word for the same equipment, and it's unique. And I enjoy talking to the guys and spending time and learning what their terminology is. It a cylinder or a bottle? Many times they're like, oh, it's an air bottle. No, it's an air cylinder. Bottles are for water.
Yeah.
And they're very strong opinion. Is it a ladder? Is it a tower? Is it a truck?
Oh yeah. Is it a quint or is it a truck?
Right.
Yeah. And you get those truck guys, though. They get very defensive about what it is sometimes. So.
Right.
Yeah, I think we call them
aerials.
No, but we call air packs, air bottles. We don't call them cylinders here.
Cylinder, right?
Yeah, we call them bottles.
Air bottles.
Change my bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
You go out Midwest, they're like, that's for water. What do you mean? Yeah, it's an air cylinder.
Again, so it's always different stuff, but it must be interesting to travel around and get to do that. And so you're not cold calling anymore, but are you ever driving past a firehouse and like see somebody and you're like, man, it looks like a cool place. I'm just going to stop in and say hi.
I have. So I say I don't cold call, but occasionally if I'm driving past, I'll pull over and I'll leave my card. If you guys are any of the firehouses that are out there that all of a sudden had this, Heroes Next Door card in your door, that's me. I'm just saying, hey, I saw your cool firehouse.
Stop by.
Stop by, put it in the door, and hopefully, you'll call me and we can set something up. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I have a question for you, though. We're going to kind of flip the script here a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
Tell me a little bit about 1075.
1075. Well, it was. We started off as a very small company back in 2003. I was working. So I was working in law enforcement at the same time. So 1075 was kind of. I worked for somebody doing some sales of emergency vehicles.
Okay.
Command vehicles, chief's cars, paramedic units, and they were based out of Virginia, and I was trying to sell vehicles up here. And I was selling, but not really selling, because what they were doing down there wasn't what people up here wanted. So I said, hey, listen, this is the package that I want to put together and sell in New Jersey. Okay. And brush you off. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna just, get brushed off by these guys and lose, I'm putting my time and effort in,
Sure.
and I'm not getting sales because what's good for Virginia is not good up here.
Yeah.
And so I finally said, you know what? Let me start something. So I had a business partner. We started, two of us, out of a trailer. And basically we started, just running around, doing, it was small installs. Started small.
Yeah.
And then it just grew from there. We got a shop. We had a little 1,500 square foot shop. And we were able to do like 3 vehicles at a time. From doing 1 to 3, we had an indoor. We weren't working under tents. We weren't working in parking lots. So we hit the big time.
Yeah.
And then I had a change in partnership. Ryan, who's my partner now, came on board, and we were growing. And the growth was slow, but we were happy with it. We were doing some command vehicles, and then Ryan started promoting on social media. And the company saw a pretty big growth right then and there, because the younger people that were involved in the fire service were starting to, Ryan's probably 15 years younger than me. So he was more into that social media. I was, I'm a Gen X guy, I grew up outside, so it was a little different.
Right.
So we hit that kind of market, and then we were making these command boxes, building them, cutting them in my basement on a table saw.
Okay.
Put them together, and they were like, we were sitting there having to sand them. Things weren't coming together right. And so finally Ryan's like, hey, let's buy a small CNC machine. make our own command boxes. Okay. We buy that and we start making our own command boxes. And then he's like, we're not using it all the time. So let's start selling to other upfitters around the country that do what we do.
Okay.
Well, that's where we exploded because people were looking for a quality product that they could offer, and we were doing custom. So, as you know, in the fire service and EMS, we all don't carry the same equipment. We all don't have the same exact missions, even though we do.
Yeah.
You know, you may carry 2 AEDs, we carry 1 AED in a med bag, but we also might carry water rescue gear. And so everybody's got a little bit different layout of how they want things in their command vehicles.
Sure.
So we started doing the custom. And it took off. We went from having one CNC machine running about 2 hours a day to we have 2 CNC machines running full time now.
Nice.
So it's really grown. We've done some interesting builds. We've done a portable classroom, a mobile classroom. It's basically a mobile STEM lab.
Okay.
That has the ability. It's a 28-foot or 30-foot box truck. Has the ability to work as a whole outdoor classroom and can run 8 hours with either AC or heat without running a generator or the engine.
Wow.
So we had to meet all these requirements, so we had to use batteries and figure all this out to make sure that we were going to, be able to operate if it was unplugged, just sitting in a parking lot on its own. So we've done some really big builds. We did we turned an old school bus into basically portable hospital. Had 11, I think it was 11 stretchers that we had in it.
Okay.
So
nice mass casualty unit.
mass casualty unit.
Yep.
Yeah, it had oxygen ports. Oxygen ports in all locations. Electric. Wi-Fi. Got to have Wi-Fi so everybody. And they use it as a rehab bus when they go to fire. So
Okay.
in the cold they can use it for rehab, and that was for the local county over here. So we've grown over the years, and it's just been post-COVID. It's been a whirlwind. It really has been.
Okay.
It's been crazy growth, and then we went from Ryan doing the whole social media to adding a marketing department, and that just kind of we watched the growth really happen because he was trying to do wear all the hats, and once we brought in and understood and had people that understood all the nuances behind the marketing and all the the searching and all that stuff. Once we got that, that's where because a lot of your chiefs now are that generation where they kind of grew up at the tail end of the phones, so they have the Facebook, they have the Instagram, they watch the reels.
Yeah.
And now the younger guys are all over the TikTok, and they're like, oh, I saw your, and I'm like, so
perfect.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
So, but that's how we grew. So it just kind of grew out of that. It was a real.
So are you more? Do you make the boxes, or are there two separate?
Two separate sides.
Okay,
So we have the 1075 side of it, and we have the first in manufacturing side. So the 1075 is the vehicle conversion side.
Okay.
So we do that, and then we have the first in command boxes, which is pretty much we do a lot of paramedic trucks, a lot of pullouts for pickup trucks, bigger stuff.
Okay.
So that's the first inside. So we do both. So like if there's an installer somewhere that says, hey, I like your product, you can buy it on our wholesale side. You can sell it to your customers.
Okay. Now, are you nationwide as far as the boxes?
Yeah, we're pretty much nationwide. If we're not nationwide, if we don't have a dealer near them, we will drop ship to a firehouse, EMS building or wherever they're getting it outfitted. If they're not a dealer of ours, we'll still deliver it there and they can install it for them.
And then your outfit is more local.
More local stuff. I mean, we got some people traveling 7-8 hours to drop off a vehicle because they want to use because we saw you on social media and they follow us. So
we pick up fire trucks all the time from Wisconsin and Indiana, so why not?
Exactly. I mean, I don't know too many people want to come up here to New Jersey to pick cars, especially this time of year. We're starting to get a little cool, but and then this kind of grew out of all that was, hey, listen, let's take it to another level and add a podcast to it, and we had a little bit of space that freed up, so that we were like, yeah, we could do this here.
Yeah.
So it's been good. Yeah, thank you. And we enjoy doing it, and we enjoy having people like you, so that it's kind of a cross exposure thing, right? You get exposure to our customer base, and we get to see your followers as well. So
sure.
But
So hopefully in a future episode, I'd like to come back because you're only 2.5 hours away, and I'll do a station cribs with you and show me how your shop works and
absolutely,
stuff
we'd
like
love
that.
to have you. We'd
Yeah,
love to have you
yeah.
come up.
So if you're out there listening or watching right now, definitely pay attention. I'm gonna come back for sure and do a whole station cribs with 1075.
We used to have a really cool building up in Buffalo. It was we were doing conversions out of an old firehouse.
Okay.
So it was pretty cool. It was
Yeah.
like it had a little bit of history to it,
Right.
but we outgrew it.
Okay.
So unfortunately, we had to
Yeah.
go to a bigger facility up there.
So from the police side, the 10 numbers, 1075.
Fire.
Fire?
1075, City, New York, working fire.
Okay, because I thought it was bad weather. The old 10 codes.
Well, it depends. Yeah, it depends. So
Working fire. I like it. I like it.
so, and then we found out we completely stumbled into it that we go to trade shows. The numbers are before the alphabet. So on the trade show list, you're usually near the top.
Yeah.
So that's why when we did the second company, we stayed with a number first in.
Right.
So that we're,
right. It's like the old phone books. People may not know that because we're now on social media. The old phone books used to be a AAA plumbing, because they wanted to be the first in the phone book.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. White pages and yellow pages. I remember those
Exactly.
days.
Yeah. So.
You just have to look stuff up.
Well, I appreciate you, taking me out here and, having the time to sit down and talk with me. I know you're a busy dude, taking care of business and everything like that. So, I appreciate you as a volunteer. I appreciate you as a business owner doing it all. And, hopefully we can continue to move forward.
Absolutely. And thank you for making the drive out here. It was great to actually get down and get to sit down and BS for a little bit and talk about life and how it is. I know we're only 2.5 hours apart, but it's probably worlds different.
It is
the way people operate, right?
Yeah. Well, I can get into Jersey, but I got to pay to get out, so that's always an issue.
I can show you. There's a free bridge you can go across, but you got to kind of they'll take you out of the way a little bit.
Right.
But,
no, I absolutely love it. Jersey here, Delaware, everything. In this kind of eastern corner, it makes it easy to come out and visit you guys and see what's going on, and just learning from town to town. Everybody does it just a little bit different. Everybody has a little bit twist on it. But if we continue to open our ears, open our eyes, and see what's going on around us, we don't get stuck in our sandbox. I truly believe that we're going to continue to advance. We're going to make the service better. We're going to bring in those next generations that understand what's going on because we've taken the time as leadership to reach out to them. We can't expect them to reach to us all the time. We need to also extend that hand and say, "Hey, brother, sister, I'm here for you. Come out and help us."
Yeah, I mean the outreach is great. We need to have outreach because they're not banging. I mean, I remember when I first joined, people were beating the door down to join. Now it's we gotta reach out to them.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
And if you're out there and you got a firehouse that you want to visit to do a station crib on, reach out to Heroes Next Door. Mike, appreciate your time today and look forward to meeting up with you again and we'll do a little tour of the shop next time.
Yeah, sounds awesome. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, guys. We good?
Yeah, that was good. You guys have any other questions with it, or?
I think we're pretty good.
We're doing pretty good.
Nice.